My name is Charlotte Timberlake-Torseth. I am 67 and a half years old. I was born in Richmond, Virginia, currently residing in Mechanicsville. I'm an international traveler who's been around quite a few places, and I'm a retired registered nurse with a clinical background in emergency and trauma and multiple other areas ending in gastroenterology. I have always tried to be proactive. I'm a retired nurse, and I knew that during the pandemic everybody got off on their routine exams. So I was the president of Old Dominion Society of Gastroenterology Nurses, and our bylaws needed to be updated every 2 years. So I came to Virginia Beach, and my friend, who is part of the Filipino Nurses Association, was helping me with the bylaws, and we went to the Filipino cookout. And while I was there, Vanessa Hill came to speak to the group about Project Nana. And I have a passion for the Bahamas, which is where she's from living in the islands for many years. And I thought, I can do this. I like getting the word out because I was brought up that you always give back to your community. So I said, you know what, you're behind. Make your appointment. I made my appointment, went to visit my gynecologist. We caught up. And we also checked me because I am a melanoma survivor, and that is a rare case that you may find it in the vagina or the labia, lips. So we look for that as well. About 2.5 weeks later, my pap smear came back negative. The next day, I had bright red bleeding. And at that time, the nurse in me went, well, you just bought a hysterectomy. The third day, Wednesday, I saw her. Ultrasound, endometrial biopsies, blood work. The next day I knew the blood work was positive for a cancer. The next day I knew that I was going to be meeting an oncologist, that the biopsy report, the endometrial biopsies were clear enough that they felt like I was a FIGO1, which of course is the nurse I'm Googling, which sounded good, my margins were good. And then she said, what oncologist do you want? Well, that was not on my bucket list to add an oncologist to my list of doctors. And I said, well, who would you pick? So she said, I like this group. And Monday morning, by 9 o'clock, the oncology group was calling. I'll take your first available appointment. It was Wednesday, 4 weeks from the day of my first appointment. I'm meeting this very serious GYN oncologist who I'm like, okay, we go through the whole thing. He explains it. I took my son with me. I felt like he needed to understand what was going on. The nurse in me already knew. The exam went fine. The first available surgery date was the 27th of December. I went in and I was very calm until right before I was to go back, and that was when my anxiety hit me at that time because I knew what was getting ready to happen to me. And my mental health therapist said, you know, Charlotte, it's because you were losing control at that time. You had to put it in others' hands. And that is how I came to be part of Project Nana and part of the new group of, I'm now an endometrial cancer person, but I cannot say I'm a true survivor, even though I did read the entire path report and everything was confined. I have to wait 5 years and hopefully there will be no reoccurrences. Well, I am starting to see, as I said earlier, I'm 67 and a half. And it's almost as if sometimes they do not feel that I am still a viable person, that I have a lot of energy and a lot left to give to this world. I'm not done yet. I'm just getting started. I have the freedom now to put all of the knowledge that I have accumulated in the 67 and a half years and 44 plus as a registered nurse, put it all together. I am promoting, I think if we can catch any medical condition early, it's a good thing. When I was a little younger, I did participate in a new group called Medical Explorers, and we took high school students and we showed them all the different areas in the medical profession that they could be involved in. And I always told them in the holidays, when you go home and you're gathering with your family, sit down with the older people and ask them about their health, what ailments or aches or surgeries they've had, because later on as you get older, these may be things that you will be experience in yourself. To the best of my knowledge, none of the women in my family had endometrial cancer. I may be the first. There is a lot of heart disease and strokes, so I am warding off evil spirits that does not come my way. In order to treat my endometrial cancer, when the diagnosis was found and I met with the GYN oncologist, surgery, I knew at that time, was the only option. I called it the weed was in my garden, and we needed to get the weed out because weeds can spread. So I had a robotic, laparoscopic, total hysterectomy with bilateral, salpine, oophorectomy, and sentinel node dissections. And all of my nodes came back negative, which I'm grateful for. I was also requesting a copy of the surgical dictation and the pathology report. I was pleased to see that my gastro GYN oncologist did what is called a cytology washing of the peritoneum, and that also came back negative. And one of the reasons they do that is in case maybe it is metastasized or it came from another place, is the washing before they do anything may show the pathologist some cells. So the hysterectomy and the pathology report came back fine. When we went back for my 3-week follow-up, he did another exam, said I was healing well. And this is where I took my son along, and this is where they always say, take someone with you. I heard him say he wanted to see me every 3 months. I thought he said 1 to 2 years, and then every 6 months up to 5 years. My son said, no, Mom. He wants to see you every 3 months for 3 years, and then every 6 months until you hit the 5-year mark. And then I guess we will debate a new plan at that time. I guess he just likes to see me because I'm fun to hang out with. The reason I chose my son is my husband passed away about 5-6 years ago now with pancreatic cancer. We only had the one son, so he is last man standing. I've always said when my mother had her massive stroke, and I'm the oldest of 5, it is rough racing mothers. They do not listen to you. And my poor son has a mother who is a trauma nurse who is used to being in control and dictating everything, and I'm trying to get him prepared for, as I don't think I'm elderly, but by the dictionary, 65 and older puts me as elderly. When I hit 80, then I'm going to be elderly, and that's okay. I've got a right to slow down then. I wanted him to hear from the doctor what they were going to do to me, how I was supposed to feel, what were going to be my limitations surgery, because that meant since he lives with me, he is going to have to pick up the slack. It was interesting because he sleeps later than I do, and I'm more active in the morning. And when I had a reaction to the blood thinner, I realized I was slowing down and my lips were swelling up. But he didn't see that because he always saw me when he was getting up. I was already with the ice pack from here to here, sitting in the sofa going, okay, I've done enough today. I'm going to relax. So I think it was good for him to know what was going on because he watched his father go within a month. And in his mind, I felt like he thought, well, now Mom's going to go. What is going to happen? So I wanted him to be part of this process for his own knowledge and so he wouldn't be as afraid. And one day he may have a wife and maybe she might go through this, but he needs, we all have to grow up sometimes, so we have to face things a little sooner than we'd like to. Well, the interesting story of how my gynecologist and I came to meet each other was the previous one I had when I did not have a good delivery. I didn't realize I was a geriatric pregnancy. My C-section was an emergency C-section. The anesthesiologist fell asleep during the C-section, so I knew exactly what they were doing and was telling them when they were cutting him out and when they were sewing him up, and they didn't believe me until I lifted myself up off the table. From that point, I had not healed, and that one said, well, we'll see you in 6 months to a year. So one of the anesthesiologists I worked with said, go see my wife. And I met her when my son was 30 and she had just had her son. So when she looked at my wound, she still talks to this day because I remember the first day you walked in, you looked like a piece of roast that they had just sliced in half. And so that is how I've been with her for over 30 years. Well, actually, I taught her a few things because when I walked in this time for follow-up, I told her about the melanoma and that she needed to look here, and she said that wasn't true. But in the meantime, she had done her own research, and she goes, oh, look, I've had a melanoma. And as she sat down, she goes, I've got to call my own gynecologist because I need them to look down there. At this point, my treatment is, after my surgery, is to continue to follow with my GYN oncologist for every 3 months for 3 years, and then every 6 months till we hit the 5-year mark. On my next visit, which is before Valentine's Day, I will ask him, do I go back to my GYN doctor, or is he going to be the person following me for the rest of my life? Because I plan to make it to 83 and up.